activities, stock levels, and purchase discount. All these practices can free up working capital, allowing companies to invest in growth initiatives and job creation. When businesses tie up too much capital in excess inventory, they may have limited resources for expansion, potentially hindering progress towards SDG 8 goals of economic growth and decent work for all. Methodology that was adopted, the standard location was Nairobi City County. Research design was descriptive and correlational. Population of the standard was 60 large supermarkets. Sampling procedure was simple add-on. Sample size was that large supermarkets. Research instruments that were employed were questionnaires and checklists because of primary data and secondary data. And data collection procedure, I've mentioned that one, and analysis was done using regression models. Summary of the study. The adoption of inventory management automation has been linked to improved performance metrics. Research found that 56.7% of supermarket performance could be explained by level of automation in inventory management systems. This indicates that technology plays a crucial role in streamlining operations and enhancing customer service. Implementing effective inventory management practices contributes to sustainable resource management by reducing waste and optimizing stock levels. This aligns with the broader socio-economic transformation goals, as efficient resource use can lead to lower operational cost and improve profitability for supermarkets. Efficient inventory management directly correlates with the cost savings. So markets that effectively manage their inventories can reduce holding costs and minimize stockouts, leading to increased sales and customer satisfaction. Better inventory management practices enhance customer service delivery by ensuring product availability and timely restocking. This is critical for maintaining competitive advantage in the retail sector, where customer expectations are continually rising. By improving operational efficiencies through advanced inventory management techniques, supermarket can contribute to local economies by creating jobs, increasing sales volumes, and enhancing supplier relationship. The relationship between inventory management and financial performance was positively and statistically significant. This implies that proper inventory management resulted in improved earnings, thus improving financial performance of land supermarkets, Nairobi City County. The paper therefore suggested that supermarkets should adopt efficient and effective inventory management practices. Thank you.
That was so fast. I think members we still counting on saving time. So we take down the questions. Kindly keep them. Now, in the interest of time, we'll go to that procedures. Then we can clap for Simon for the presentation. And I remember we did clap for Dr. Nyang, the first presenter, but tutamkumbuka baadaye. So, members, we go to next presentation by Dr. Tumaini Mwikamba and Douglas Roma and Viona Muleke. The presentation is on macroeconomic factors and financial performance of microfinance institutions in Kenya. So members, we can listen, and hoping that we are still keeping our questions to the Q&A. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Mwikamba.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Tumaini Mwikamba, and me together with Douglas and Viona, we came up with this particular topic where we were discussing the influence of macroeconomic factors on the financial performance of microfinance institutions in Kenya. Just a brief introduction. Macroeconomics is basically the study of decision-making units for the whole economy. It is a branch of economics that basically studies behavior, decision-making, and structure and performance of the whole economy. And from empirical literature, there are so many factors that relate to macroeconomics. I think there are over 10. But for this particular study, we only studied 4 factors. Some of the other factors include inflation, employment, fiscal policy, exchange rates, all those, they are quite a number, but we only studied 4. Now, looking at the microfinance industry, it is part and parcel of the financial system within an economy, and especially for developing countries, because they only serve the people who have not been banked. They are the ones who are serviced by microfinance institutions. And for most developing countries, they actually play a critical part when it comes to financial inclusion in terms of serving the people who are not banked. I think even right here in our region, that is Tharaka, currently we do not have a bank. But if you look at access to financial services, they're actually being offered by microfinance institutions. I think we have a branch of Faulo Kenya at Marimanti, but there are no banks. So you can see they go above and beyond what banks actually consider their niche. Now they form a significant part of the financial system for developing countries through financial services offered by microfinance. Financial inclusion rates for developing countries have significantly increased. And it is not only relating to financial inclusion, it also relates to financial deepening in terms of the services that they offer. They offer more than what banks actually offer. For example, some of them even offer green energy products. Others offer things like financial advice, all those things, and also insurance. They also offer insurance services. So they play a critical part within the financial system. Now, going to the reason why the study is being conducted, this is basically a graph that shows the financial performance of microfinance institutions for the last couple of years. And if you notice, from 2013 all the way to 2017, they have been making profits. That is, they have been having a positive return on assets. However, since 2018, they have been making losses for quite some time. So from 2018 all the way to 2023, the financial performance has been declining. And if you look at the central bank supervision reports that come out on an annual basis, you will see that the sector is plagued with various challenges. And central bank actually classifies these challenges from 2 aspects. We have both the internal or institutional factors, and also we have the external factors. Now for the external factors, we are talking about things that are beyond the control of these particular microfinance institutions. And this study was looking at these external factors. Of course, empirical literature has tried to explore this relationship between macroeconomics and financial performance of microfinance, but it has not been conclusive. It is still a little bit inconclusive because some studies give various results that are actually varying. Now the objectives, of course we have the general one, which is the relationship between macroeconomics and financial performance of microfinance institutions. And the specific macroeconomic variables that we are looking at are the GDP, interest rates, inflation rate, and also the exchange rate, how they basically affect financial performance. The theoretical framework, we based our study on the stakeholder theory. And the stakeholder theory basically says that institutions exist within a certain environment. And the actions of the institution can affect the environment, and also the environment itself can also affect what? The institution. Now in this particular case, we are saying that the macroeconomic environment, how does it affect the financial performance of microfinance institutions? Moving on to the conceptual framework, we basically have a figurative representation of the different variables that are being examined in the study. Of course, financial performance was measured using return on assets, and the rest are provided through the different forums. So design, descriptive research design, population, all deposit-taking microfinance institution. According to the central bank, there are 14 in number, and of course there are more than that, but we only focused on the ones that are deposit-taking because they're the ones which are being regulated by the central bank. The sampling design, we use the sensors. And secondary data was collected from the year 2013 to 2023. Data analysis was done through a multiple linear regression model. There are various, and that is the model that we used. Let me get. Now, as you can see, the average of the interest rate that was charged between the particular period that we are discussing was between 14, was actually 14%. And the exchange rate was 104, that is the Kenya shilling versus the dollar. The inflation rate was at 6.38%, and the GDP was between 4.56%. And the return on assets was negative 0.01. As you can see, the standard deviation, the variation that was highest was on an exchange rate, which had a standard deviation of 14.55%. But all the others, their deviation were not as significant as that of the exchange rate. Skewness and kurtosis from a normal distribution, which is one of the assumptions of multiple regression analysis. Normality was tested using the Jackie-Beer test. For multicollinearity, we used the tolerance and the VIF factor. And also heteroscedasticity was tested using the Brack-Pagan test. And the data all conformed to those particular assumptions. Now looking at the results, we see that 84.6% of the variation between macroeconomics and financial performance of microfinance institutions is actually based on the variations of GDP, interest rate, inflation rate, and exchange rate. Another results of the analysis of variance basically justified the model. The significance level at the end down there, you can see, is actually below 0.05. Looking at the coefficient results, there is a negative relationship between interest rate and MFI performance. And however, this relationship was not statistically significant. For the exchange rate, it was a negative relationship, and the relationship was actually statistically significant. For inflation rate, it was a positive relationship, and it was also significant. For GDP, the relationship between macroeconomics and financial performance was positive. However, the relationship was not significant. So in conclusion, we are basically saying that exchange rate and inflation rate, they're the two macroeconomic variables in this case that significantly affect MFI performance. And the recommendation is that
the government should actually try as much as possible to regulate the exchange rate using various monetary policy recommendations, because if it becomes volatile, it basically means that MFIs will be significantly affected. And also in terms of inflation rate, in economics, the much I know is that up to a certain degree, inflation can be positive to economic growth. So that one is also a good recommendation. So they should basically try to have a balance between the two. On maybe the recommendations for further studies, we have only looked at these 4. We have said macroeconomic variables, there are more than 10. Other studies can focus on the others. And in addition to that, the sector should try to keep up with technology, because things are changing. Even if the processes are simpler in terms of credit policy, digital funding, or what we are referring to as digital lenders, and they are offering services that are more faster and more efficient than them. So if they do not conform to the new market dynamics, they will eventually be phased out of business. Yes, so thank you. That was our presentation.
We can clap for Tumaini. Members, that is a good presentation. I think with that spirit we shall catch up. So as we keep the questions, let's go to the next presentation by Duncan Kimathi. And there is a presentation by which will replace that talent retention by Malim. You'll be next. So the presentation from Duncan is risk assessment controls on financial performance of manufacturing firms listed in the NSE Kenya. So Duncan, you still have 15 minutes. We started counting.
Thank you. My name is Duncan Kimathi. I'm going to present risk assessment controls and financial performance of manufacturing firms listed on Nairobi Securities Exchange. I was assisted to develop this paper by Mr. Justo Simiyu and Mr. Colin Sitino. So basically, the main motivation of this study is that when you look at the manufacturing sector, it plays a very big critical role in the economy, either in creation of jobs and even supporting other sectors such as agriculture. So it also a central role in inspiring innovations, as we see by the empirical standard of Wang Lu and Ang 2020. When you look at the United Nations report 2021, we are going to see that the GDP contribution by the manufacturing sector fell by 0.6% in 2019 and 2020. And when you look at the Africa's manufacturing sector, which and a more worrying issue, according to Korea, the Thunder of 2021, manufacturing sector MVA to GDP in Africa stood at only 2% in 2019. And this figure is about 9 times lower than the global MVA per capita, which reckons as 18%. Equally, the MVA per capita growth in Africa is much lesser than the global growth. Between 2012 and 2019, it grew by an average of 0.7% compared to the global growth of 2.1%. So there is a general thinking that good internal control systems, or what we call ICSs, within an organization, leads to general financial performance and therefore improvement of an organization in general. This is in accordance to Dixon et al. 1990. And when we look at what internal ICSs or internal control systems refer to, they refer to strategic interventions that the institutions put in place so that they can safeguard the operational efficiency and integrity, as well as to bring order to achieve the organizational set goals. This is in accordance to Muhonyo and the Jagongo 2018. So, in general view is that all the recent manufacturing firms in Kenya should implement the robust and well-structured internal control systems to enable them meet their financial goals. And when we look at these components of ICS, there are several in number, to be specific 5, which is risk assessment, control environment, control activities, information communication activities, and monitoring activities. We concentrated on with one element, which is risk assessment control, because this is one of the key areas that we need to look at the ICSs. So what do we mean by the one risk assessment? Risk assessment helps us in identifying and prioritizing potential risks by considering this variable. Comprehensive ICS can be established that helps to minimize the risk, enhance the decision making, and ensure that manufacturing companies operations remain in compliance with the regulations and policies. So, and did not capture the theoretical. This standard was anchored by efficient structure theory, even though it didn't capture it there. The methodology of the study, the location of the study was Nairobi County, Kenya. The research design was descriptive and correlational research designs. The population of the study was 9 listed firms, manufacturing firms listed in NIC, and we used a multi-stage sampling procedure, whereby we first used a purposive sampling method to purposively sample 7 firms which are in operational or in good terms. As of now, the other 2 either I'm not going to use the word banned, suspended or ceased the operations, so we could not get their data. And then the second type of sampling, we use a stratified proportionate simple sampling method to get the number of employees that we were supposed to interview in the 7 purposively sampled firms. And I think the number of employees that we sampled were 93. The research instrument was to use was the questionnaire and the checklist, and the data to be collected was primary and secondary data. The result and the discussions of the findings were, the findings shown there was an existence of a strong positive correlation of 76.1% between risk assessment and performance. That is a R value of 0.761, and further results indicating that risk assessment activities were explained by 15% changes in financial performance of manufacturing firms listed on NIC. That is explained by the result of the R square, which was 0.580. The further results shown that all other aspects remained constant. There was a constant performance of 0.663 at 95% confidence level. And the result shown that the effect was statistically significant with a p-value of 0.00 at 0.5%, at 0.05 significant. And those results explain the significance of the model. And finally, the relationship between the risk assessment controls and financial performance was positively and statistically significant. This implying that proper risk assessment controls resulted in improved financial performance of manufacturing firms listed in NIC Kenya. The conclusion of the study concludes that risk assessment controls have a significant impact on the financial performance of selected manufacturing firms. strong correlation and statistically significant regression results demonstrated that improving risk assessment linked to enhanced financial outcomes. This is supported by both descriptive and regression analysis, which consistently shown that well-implemented risk assessment measures contributing to better financial performance. The recommendation is that based on these findings, the following recommendations were proposed. Number one, risk identification. Companies should improve processes related to identifying risk, such as fraud and credit risk, when preparing their financial statement. Under risk analysis, the study recommended that enhancing risk analysis processes for credit, fraud, and the customer and operational risk during financial statement preparations. And on risk response, firms should ensure effective risk response mechanisms to mitigate and identify the risk, particularly on the financial reporting. Thank you. That is the end of my presentation.
Members, can we clap for Duncan? That's a good presentation from Duncan. Thank you so much and for keeping us our time. Now we have, as we agreed, we keep our question to the Q&A session. Members, now we go to Enjoy. Enjoy, you take this time, 15 minutes, to present your document, your presentations. Later will be followed by Maurice. Maurice, Monsieur Q will be on standby. Then later, in the interest of time, we'll be going to the Q&A. If we get more time, we'll go to the next presentation, the one that we arranged for afternoon, if we get time. But if we won't get time, so we'll go to that session of Q&A. We ask our question members kindly keep those questions, and we want to make it interactive, so we add ideas and these presentations. Thank you. Welcome, Enjoy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The chair talked of me substituting someone who was supposed to present, and I'm also going to talk about substituting maybe something else for chicken production. So you're welcome. The title of my paper is Effect of Substituting Maize in Broiler Diet with Fermented and Enzyme-Treated Prosopis Dolichua Pod Meal on growth performance. To the background, which will also cover the problem of this particular research, is that it is projected that by the year 2050, the population of the world will be around 9.3 billion. Right now, we are about 8.3 billion people, 8.2 billion people, and therefore, due to that increase in the population, it is expected that there is going to be an increase or increase in the demand for maize. That is for feeding, because that is what most people feed on. Some news about the population is that there will be more demand for consumption of meat, and therefore, there is need to look at how we can solve that situation. Another thing, due to the climate changes that are threatening the agricultural production, climate change, change in weather patterns, it will also bring a problem when it comes to maize production. Maize is also being used for other activities like biofuel energy production. And therefore, at the end of it all, the bottom line is we are going to have reduced production of maize. And because of this situation, that problem, there is need to look for alternatives that are going to be used in livestock feeding, so that we can free that maize that can be used for the population. So, because maize is a conventional ingredient, this study looked at this particular plant called Prosopis juliflora. That is the picture, and it is mostly found in the outside of Kenya, the arid and the semi-arid lands. You can see that map of Kenya, that green part. Those places have been infested by Prosopis juliflora, And in fact, it's bringing a major problem to those people living in those areas because it is infesting those areas that they use for grazing. And therefore, this study looked at the possibility of using these pods in feeding of poultry. So we know it can produce up to 100 kgs per year. It has been used for firewood, charcoal, building materials, but for this particular study, we looked at possibility of using it as a livestock feed. So moving further and looking at these prosopis pods, it is high in energy and protein. And remember, we are talking about it substituting maize. And maize is an energy source. But these pods, they have an advantage because they also have high protein content. But this high protein content and energy is also a problem because for animals to get access to this energy and this protein, we have some anti-nutritive factors which make this protein and energy not to be accessible to these animals. So although it has high energy and protein, but animals are not able to get this energy and protein because of the anti-nutritive factors which include tannin, high crude fiber, and maybe non-starch polysaccharides. Now, this study looked at two key methods to try and circumvent these these anti-nutritive factors, which include fermentation and maybe adding enzymes, because when we are feeding poultry, they are known as non-ruminants, and they don't have the capacity to eat that feed that has high fiber. So if we can be able to ferment this food earlier, or we add enzyme earlier before we feed the animals, it will bring those benefits, which include improved digestibility and also better utilization of these pods. Now, the objective of this study was to determine the effect of substituting maize in broiler diets with both fermented and enzyme-treated pods. That is the hypothesis, which states that maize in broiler diets with fermented and enzyme-treated has no significant effects. Going further now to the materials and methods. Remember the map that I showed you? These pods were collected in Marigat. Marigat is found in Baringo County, that is the Rift Valley. And the pods that were collected were the ones that were dry and ripened. In fact, we could go and, for you to be able to get those pods that were ripe, you just shake the tree. Those that fall are the ones that we assume or we understand that they are ripe, and the ones, but you remove those that are blackened because that is an indication that they are moldy. So dry and ripened, then they were dried first. Of course, the first time we grind without having a sieve, but the second grinding, we used the 5mm sieve. Then after the second grinding, that prosopis pod, the pod, after we grinded it, it was put in airtight containers. Then from that pod, we had now the 3 treatments. The enzyme that we used was the natrizyme. We fermented the other one, and then there was one that was not fermented, which acted as a control. So that one was used to formulate the diets, and that is a picture that was taken during the experiment. Now, broilers usually have 2 major phases in when you are keeping them. We have the starter phase, which is 0 to 21 days, and we have the finisher phase, which takes 22 to 42 days. So there are 2 phases, and the levels that I used in this experiment, that the prosopis pod levels, were 0, 15, 30, and 45. These are the levels that were used to substitute maize, because we want to reduce the burden on the reliance of maize in feeding of chicken with the pods. So 0 was the control, but then we had 15, 30, and 45 levels of substitution. Then the biotechnologies, like I mentioned before, we had those that were unfermented, the ones that we added the enzyme, and the ones that were fermented. So this experiment used a total of 180 birds. That is the 500 cob is a strain of broiler chicken that was used in this study. And we had 12 treatments. as you can see, the 4 levels and the 3 biotechnologies. So this was a 4x3 factorial experiment that is set up and completely randomized design. Then the parameters that were considered in this study were feed intake, the weight gain, and the feed conversion ratio, which was calculated as feed intake over the weight gain. Then the data analysis for this particular experiment, we used the SAS. Then another was carried out. Then if there were any differences, a post hoc test was carried out using TOOCs at a 5% level of significance. So the results, moving forward to the results, these are the results. This is the feed intake. As you can see, the red one is the one that, the top one, is the one that was fermented, followed by the second one which was enzyme treated, and finally the one that was unfermented. But this one is going to come out clearly when in this table. So this table is for the first phase of the experiment. As you can see, in the 0, that is the control, there was no significant differences among all the 3 biotechnologies, but if you consider, for example, the 15, the one in red, the unfermented, the enzyme, and the fermented, if you look at the final weight of the buds, you can see there was not much difference, because for the buds that were receiving unfermented feeds and the ones that were receiving fermented feeds, there was no significant differences. But let us consider the 45% level. 45%, the one in green. For example, if you consider the final weight, you can see that bud that was receiving fermented feed, 45%, it had a significantly higher weight, that is a 384, as compared to the one that was unfermented, and that was a 306. So it indicates that fermented feeds have a way of improving the feed intake. Even if you look at the second last column, the feed intake was better for 45 fermented, and even if we go further and look at the feed conversion ratio, it was better. So it has been seen that fermenting feeds has a way of improving feed availability for the buds. And in fact, if you say that the feeds that are fermented, buds, the broilers, they have a way of, they have a better feed intake as compared to the others. And also fermenting feed has a way of reducing the anti-nutritive factors, because it digests the complex bonds that prevent the availability of nutrients. Going to the finisher phase, the same trend was repeated. As you can see, maybe I can consider the 45% again. If you look at the final weight, this bird was weighing 1.2 kilos, as compared to a bird that was receiving unfermented feed, which at the end of the experiment only weighed barely 780 grams. So the same reasons can be used here, that if you ferment the feeds, it has a way of improving feed intake, and for that matter, it has a way of also releasing the nutrients that can also be used for the bird. So conclusions and recommendations. Based on the three biotechnologies that were used for this research, it is concluded that fermented pods perform better from the results that have been presented in the table. But in that order, the unfermented feeds are performed poorly, but the fermented feeds the birds receiving fermented feeds had better performance, but enzyme was in between unfermented and fermented feeds. So what are the recommendations from this study? The recommendations is that if incorporated fermented prosopis pods, it enhances broiler performance. And both methods, that's fermentation and enzyme treatment, is a way of improving the utilization of prosopis pods. And therefore, we can now decide to use these methods and stop over-reliance of use of maize due to the challenges that we are going to face or we are currently facing when we are using maize as an ingredient in poultry diets. So summary for this study, the problem is unsustainability of feed because of competition. Maize is being used for many other reasons. And from this study, we have seen that we have a solution where we can ferment the feeds, and these fermented feeds fermented pods can be used in substituting maize. Therefore, we can just release maize to be used for other reasons. And what next after this? Maybe if you commercialize the use of pods in poultry diets, it's going to be the next big thing in feed industry and also for food security for our people and the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Members, you can clap for him. That's a good presentation on the effects of substituting maize and broilers. I think it is a catchy area, and recently we have been having issues with the health issues. I think it's an area that we really need to discuss on. So members, we can keep on any questions on that session. Now we go, because of the interest of time, we'll go to the last presentation. I know our stomachs are complaining. We need something at least to fulfill for the next session. So we can now go to that is Maurice. What is around? So Maurice, you can present. So next we go to that session of question and answer. And also I see visitors are in. There is a columnist, thank you for coming, and Dr. Erickson, and there's other visitors that are left. So members, we can listen to Maurice. I think the mic is not working first.
Are the ones which are listed in NSC. For the background, job rotation has emerged as an on-job training method which is very key in improving employee performance. It fosters innovation and collaboration because once you are exposed to different departments, you can come up together as employees and work as a team, and this will bring a lot of creativity, and therefore you will come with better methods and the solutions of doing your job. It also reduces turnover. Reason being, employees will not be exposed to boredom in their work, in the course of their work. For this case, you are being exposed to different departments, so you are likely to understand what happens in different departments of the organization, so you will not be used to only doing one activity in the organization. For the statement of the problem, as you can see, it has been, I've used the tables to explain it, but I'll try to explain it. So employee performance in cement manufacturing industries is essential for their sustainability and growth. And it is for this case that cement manufacturing industries place high value to employee performance, which has led them to come up with job rotation. But despite this, employee skill gaps still persist. There is low productivity, high error rates, low employee commitment. And this is evident due to the fact that employee performance in cement manufacturing industries is declining at an increasing rate, which is forcing some industries even to run bankrupt and others seek for receivership. To add on, limited studies have been done on this area, and the ones which have been done have not incorporated employee characteristics as a moderator to establish the relationship between job rotation and employee performance. The study was guided by this objective to establish the influence of job rotation on employee performance of cement manufacturing industries listed in NSC Kenya. The hypothesis: there is no statistically significant relationship between job rotation and employee performance of cement manufacturing industries listed in NSE Kenya. The conceptual framework: job rotation is the independent variable. We have the departmental transfers. Employee characteristics is the moderator. Prior knowledge and skills, which will incorporate maybe you have experience in terms of your age there, and learning styles. Employee performance, which can be measured using task completion rate and the error rate, the mistakes which you can perform while performing your job. The study was anchored by multiple intelligence theory. I know I have not indicated there, but it was multiple intelligence theory. This is the methodology. The research design was correlational. The location was the cement manufacturing industries listed in NSE. The population of the study was 1,476 employees. The sample size was 30% of the total population. The sampling techniques used was stratified proportionate simple random sampling. For the analysis, I did the descriptive and the inferential. This is the population of the, that is the population of the study as per the different management levels. You can see we have top management, middle level, low level, and the operational employees. This is the sample size which was obtained for the study population. The model specification of the study, we have the simple linear, and then I incorporated the moderator to check whether there was a difference between when there was no moderator and when there was a moderator. These are the results. The response rate was 80.36. The pilot findings, the pilot study was done estimation of cement, 0.86. The test for linearity was done, heteroscedasticity and multicollinearity, and all these observed the regression. The results for correlation: job rotation exhibited high positive correlation, 0.35, and the significant p-value was below, less than 0.05. The regression analysis: job rotation exhibited high positive correlation with employee performance, 0.35, explaining 12% of the variance. That is, R square was 0.12, and the model was statistically significant with F value 31.11 and P value 0.02. When I moderated job rotation with employee characteristics, you can see the value went high for the R square. It was 0.25. Explaining 25% of the variance in employee performance. The conclusion of the study: the findings demonstrated that job rotation has a significant impact on performance, both on the job and through employee improvement and versatility. According to the study findings, employees who underwent job rotation became more capable and versatile, which had an impact on their performance, and the impact was positive. The recommendations of the study: Kenyans limited cement manufacturing industries should improve on their job rotational programs and also recruit employees with requisite personnel characteristics. And that was evident after I introduced employee characteristics as a moderator between job rotation and employee performance. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Because of the interest of time, I'll just ask 2 questions, and I will open the grant for the rest of the room. I think you've seen that most of our discussions are based on artificial intelligence. There's a good research that was done by Dr. Nyamu that's on business automation systems and tax revenue and growth in Kenya. So I was thinking deeply about AI. We use about we input data, and of course we expect the output. We have a lot of corruption in several areas. You listen to our news every day. You have a case to witness. The systems will input data. So in other words, if we depend on these systems, at the end of the day, we also know that garbage in, garbage out.
So how do you think, how can AI automation systems improve the efficiency and accuracy of the tax processes in Kenya, so that we depend on them? Maybe another question will go to the position that was done by Faith. Is Faith in? She disappeared. Faith, or if there is another colleague online. I think there was somebody from UK who was listening online. If you can listen to us, she will. So maybe I'll ask another question to that presentation is what we open the floor. The which was on the topic of the impact of rising youth population in labor market in Kenya. Yesterday, Dr. Exam introduced something that was very interesting about the population count, world population count. When I was checking the right, is that for it was like every seconds, it was +2. Let me say +2 means that those people are born and those who die, there is like +2. In other words, the ratio is 1 to 2. Now that this part of now the rising youth population, we know the youth is a good, taking a good proportion of the population and the market opportunities. Do you think that rate of the opportunities equal to that rate of population increase? So what can we do on that? I think the question is on. Then we can now open the floor. Members, let me take 4 questions, because we have another session after the other 2 sessions in the afternoon. We can keep the rest in that session. So the first hands up, Dr. Evan, my friend there, we have done Douglas. Where's one more? And my friend here. So that's enough. So Erickson.
Thank you. To the last presenter, because I was not able to listen to the rest. We were meeting with the students outside. So about the job rotation, I'm very interested in that. 2 questions. About how did you measure increased performance? And was it any difference between the different groups, or how much the performance increased? For instance, you mentioned top management and then operation. Can you say something about that?
Okay, next.
I wanted to ask that presenter, you said your p-value was 0.02. So my question was, comparing it with 0.05, is it less or greater than 0.05? Your p. Okay.
Okay, thank you. A minute. You can also note down in case they forget, but the relevant presenters can take the questions.
Thank you. I have a question on the presenter who presented on the increased youths in the labor market. What is your input when it comes to the knowledge and the skill gap in the labor market? That we have, yes, the number of employment is increasing, but still the required knowledge and the skill are still missing in the market.
Okay, those are 2 questions. Yes, Dr. Young. Dr. Young, you are not on our list. We can defer you, then we risk with the order. We had Dr. Young the last one, nobody else.
My name is Dr. Nathan Yetonga. I have a question on job rotation. Just like Dr. said, I also have some interest in this because this is what some of the things I teach. What I didn't see clearly, by the way, the presenter was very good, but he rushed over so we could not really follow. And it was a very good research, so I want to congratulate the young man for a very good job. Now, my question is there evidence of significant job rotation now, considering we're talking about the cement industry where there's a very high level of specialization? Mostly in industries where there's high level of specialization, job rotation becomes an issue. So in your research, was there evidence that there's significance, I'm talking something which warrants research to show that there is job rotation in these industries? Thank you.
Now, so Maurice, you take that down. Where's Maurice?
Thank you, Chair. I have got one question to Faith. Faith, you had a very good presentation, but in your possible recommendations, I didn't see you capturing something to do with the introduction of incubation and incubation centers, and maybe doing what we call maybe initiation of the seed capital. It is something that maybe you need to capture, because as part of your research, we should also give us solutions that should help the youth not only to become job seekers, but to become job creators. My second question goes to Mr. Wanjohi. In as much as I may not be able to pronounce the botanical name of that plant, because I'm not a scientist, my question is, you know, as the chair has alluded, a GIGO, that is garbage in, garbage out. My question is, do we have any side effect going all the way to, because actually human beings are consumers of chicken, and now this is a plant which actually is a human being, unlike maize, whereby human being is also a competitive consumer together with the chicken. Do we have you tried to see whether there's a side effect in case somebody consumes chicken which has consumed the plant, and the plant is not maybe consumable by human being? Number two, still to you, can the plant grow commercially in other areas of Kenya as opposed to only growing naturally in Asal? Thank you.
No extra question. Now we go to answering. Kindly members, let's take a minimum of less than 2 minutes. Don't do more than that. So we start with Maurice to start, then we go to Wanja to follow, then Dr. Nyam to answer. You answer a question to Dr. Alexander, and there is another question which came from someone, so we'll answer all of the questions.
Okay, thank you for your questions. On the issue of checking whether there was improved performance, I think that is why I measured employee performance in the case of task completion rate and error rate. On task completion rate, it is the way you are completing your tasks which have been assigned to you, with minimum errors, with no errors. That one is well answered. The next question was on the p-value. It was 0.02, meaning it was statistically significant. Yes? 0.05. It is less. So the next question was on why there was need to carry out the study on job rotation, specifically on the cement manufacturing industries listed in NSC. On that, I never indicated it in my slides, but I think there was a research which I followed. I have tried to check on it, Now, I think when I go back, maybe I can include it because I was guided by another study. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those questions. I'll start with the last one. I think it was more of a recommendation on including the incubation or the introducing the incubation recommendation on my study. I can work on that. It's still on progress. I can improve on that by including that. The second last question would if I go to, well, what is it that I am doing? I started by saying that we as staffs in the public universities or universities in Kenya, we are proud that we are producing graduates every year, every other time. And I say that in Masinde Muliro University, I have personally been contributing on working on the demand market survey on developing the curriculums in the university for quite around 2 years now ago. I have been doing that, and this one helps us to know what are the exact demand in the market, in the manufacturing sectors. What is it that the industry outside is expecting of us, and we include it. This needs to be done every other year because the world is digitizing and going every day and changing. The first one is what is it that can be done on the increasing the youth population. As you all know, everyone, if I may say this, the production, delivery or getting newborns increases day by day according to someone's capability. And we cannot say that manually there's something that can be done, but all we can do as a country is enhancing the growth of our manufacturing sectors, industries, so that at least when we have graduates every year or people who are capable of participating in the labor market can be able to get somewhere to secure for themselves. Thank you.
Yes, Sanjay. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. for the question. And maybe to answer this question is if there are any side effects when this product is used in livestock feeding. In fact, this study was a bigger study, and in fact there was an objective on the meat quality, because we went all the way, and after we finished the study, we did we had a consumer panel. We had to evaluate this food, organoleptic qualities of this meat. So we had a panel made up of lecturers and students in the FODI and the food science department. And the results were that, you see, when we did this experiment. In fact, the meat, the birds that received high amount of prosopis spores, that's 45. In fact, the consumer panel, from analysis, he said that it was even tastier than the other meat from the other treatments. So, in terms of harming human beings, I would say there is no harm, because even these pods have been used in making flour that has been used to make chapatis, and people have said it is the best, or it can also be consumed by human beings without any issue.
I think the reaction which is burning, maybe we get it from him. I normally expect when you hand an enzyme to positively catalyze that reaction better than fermentation. I remember when we found out why the enzyme was not performing better than fermentation. Or is it that the enzyme we used is less potent?
That could be a possibility, but for my study, fermentation perform better than maybe the use of the enzyme. And also, when you talk about the use of fermentation in fermenting the pods, it is also a matter of using
those microorganisms that are also being used in fermenting. It is also a factor of, they also produce enzymes. So it is a matter of using exogenous enzyme in fermenting, but also the microorganisms that are used in also fermenting, they also produce some enzymes that help in maybe digesting this food. So it's one and the same thing. But from this particular study, fermentation was better than the use of enzymes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't go up to that level. We did that experiment immediately after the feeding trials. So I didn't go up to that level of looking at the shelf life after some time.
I think that's the good thing about conferences. You go to 30 mile. I think your time is up.
There's maybe 1 second for the other question about commercialization. In Kenya, in fact, there was a commercial cabinet brief that was saying that this is an invasive weed and they are putting now efforts to eradicate it. But if you go to countries like India, they are commercializing these particular prosopisports. But in Kenya, we see it as a curse. But from such studies, we can say we can see some light and we can be able to use it in maybe improving food security in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Lastly, Dr. Nyami, you are responding something? You're the last person. I think you also pray for the meal for lunch.
I appreciate your question, Chair, and you started by talking about garbage in, garbage out in AI. Well, what KRA did when they introduced the e-filing is that the work of filing was left to the taxpayer. So that is how now we do filing. There before, we used to do manual, and the processes or the processing of the returns was also for KRA. So the system now processes the filing. Now, the work of administration, tax administration, is left to the authority. Now, at the inception point, I may say that corruption may not be too much because, again, you are doing self-assessment. However, when it comes now to administration of taxes, I want to put a disclaimer that you may not say that corruption will not happen, but again, now that is something on another level. Thank you. Now, with that, I think I can now become a pastor for food. I pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you because you've been together with us since we started up to the end of this session. We thank you for giving us such a smooth run all through. In front of us is a provision, how we praise until you sanctify it for your taking, in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful session. We were with rapporteur, that is Anita, and we have more questions. We have other 2 presentations in the after lunch, so we keep our questions after those presentations. So members, you can take, is it that 5 minutes? Is it enough for lunch? We can only cut 5 minutes. So much. Have a wonderful lunch.
Education for freedom. We excel with Papa Mori. Education Education for freedom.
Freedom.
Education for freedom.
Freedom.
Education for freedom.
Freedom. Freedom.
Education for freedom.
Freedom.
We excel with Papa Muriungi. Education for freedom.
Freedom.
Education for freedom.
Freedom.
Education for freedom.
Freedom. Freedom.
Education for freedom.
Freedom.
We excel with Papa Muriungi.